Alright, I'll start that now then. Yeah, there were two of them that did that. It was weird as shit. Um, the other one, yeah, well, they were back to back, so it could have been. Um, I don't watch them. Those are the only like I watched four of them in a row to see if it was doing it, and two of them were messing up. So hopefully it was only two, because I haven't watched like all of my replays, but I think it was just something with that day. But yeah, so what were you trying to get out of this lesson? Yeah, I mean, well, that's the usually you just go over a replay. Um, I the only other things that you can really do is like watching one of my games or you playing a game and me coaching it, and I don't really recommend the second one until like we've already spent 5 hours together because and even then it's like I don't even it's more of like if the student strongly suggests it, then it might be good because maybe that's just how they learn. But I'm never gonna like suggest to play with somebody or to watch somebody play. But I meant more of a like um, what's hanging you up in your games, what positions do you play, and all of that. Okay, cool. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, that's the best way to learn. Or playing Rubik. Um, I mean the with position four, it's kind of like um, it's I would say if you're under Divine Five, you're probably not doing it right, and um, not like flaming or anything. It's just position four is the most unobvious of the roles. Like position one through three, it's just kind of like go to your lane and get as much as you can out of it. And then position five is usually just do whatever you can to make your position one as best as they can. And then position four is like fuck off and do something somewhere else. And it's kind of it's one of those things that's hard to know if you're doing it right or not without looking at people that are better than you. So I think, and because position four is mostly what I play, I think it would be good if we did a position four replay, um, and I can just check out your first 10 minutes and see how that goes. Um, what are you sharing on Skype? Um, I'm sharing mine. I can just go to your recent games though. And you only have 7 to 9 days before a replay expires, so if it's past that, we can't do it. Okay. 452. Alright. Um, that combo is OP, Centaur and Tusk. Shit's dumb. Um, One thing that I do like to point out a lot of the sessions for position 4 is the only two heroes that I would pick early. You got 5th pick, so it's not bad, but usually you have to be the first or second person to pick on your team. And the only two heroes that I feel like Clockwerk and Night Stalker, they're the only ones that I feel like no matter what the enemies pick, you're not screwed. Because if they pick like an AM Quap and Mirana, um, yeah, well, as fucking any position 4 aside from Clockwerk or Night Stalker, if they can blink, you're just kind of like screwed a lot of the times. Well, it's Night Stalker. Yeah, Night Stalker, those heroes that are hard to kill for all the other position 4s are balanced around being squishy, but they have a spell. So come nighttime, this guy has a 5-second silence. And then with Clockwerk, it's a mix of, he can just cogs, he can zone really well with battery assault, and if he's not doing well in the early game, he's still fine. Like, if we compare him to a Pudge or some shit, if Pudge doesn't do anything for the first 10 minutes, he's not going to do anything for the rest of the game, except for like maybe a hook ult at some point with no items. But a Clockwerk, in the same exact situation, he's still a fucking Clockwerk. He hooks people, cogs them, and then like runs away. So, and the cogs is really nice. You can split push with Flare, which is another very underestimated thing. When you get this maxed at like level 10, you can get a lot of farm, and you can split push with it. So you're like a fucking Tinker on a position 4. So that's, I think the guy's ridiculous right now. I've been spamming the shit out of him. Yeah, he's... Yeah. Well, Tusk isn't... It's not that... I don't think Clockwerk or Night Stalker are specifically broken as, like, above 50% win rate. I think they're just... How do I put it? It's like Huskar, where... I kind of see the other supports as Huskar, in a sense, where Huskar's not, like, broken or anything. It's just... He's good when he's good, but there's a lot of times when he's not good, so you don't want to first pick him. But these two heroes can have a 50% win rate the same as all of the other position 4s, but that 50% doesn't just immediately drop to like 20 when they have AM, Quap, and Mirana as their heroes. And it's like, even if they have one of those heroes, it's especially if it's the mid hero. Like, if the mid's a Quap, a Puck, yeah, you can't fucking... you lose the ability to jump between lanes just because one of them is a blink hero mid. Because you don't really want to jump from bottom to top, but if you have mid that you can jump around on, if they only have like an AM, and then they have like a Dragon Knight, like Tide or some shit, you can jump back and forth. But if you lose that ability by them having a blink hero, you're kind of fucked, unless you're like a Clockwerk or a Night Stalker. So, for me, I only picked these two first, and really I've just been picking Clockwerk. I guess if Night Stalker was the Mango hero, I'd pick him first, but aside from that, I've just been going Clockwerk. So, gotta find it again. What was it? The 20th? This one, I think. It's always good. I guess. I don't play party queue at all, so I can't really say much. I don't really like the Fairy Fire too much. I would have rather seen you go 2 tangos, or 2 branches, because that means you can get your wand at the side chop if you're going that route. What the fuck? You would have had the, if you, this is 70 gold, I think, right? They keep changing it. Yeah, but it's kind of like if you have the mango, you're basically, you're a lot more encouraged to go wand, and if you have an extra 100 starting gold, yeah, it gives you the same amount of damage. You get 40 health instead of 85, but then you also get intelligence, and the stats don't disappear. But if you didn't get the mango for free, I would not go for wand right away. I'd, like, rush boots or some shit. Yeah. Yep. It's kind of like the way that you decide if you want to go Orb of Venom first or Boots is, can you get on the heroes for free? Which is, can you roll on them? Can you charge them? Can you snowball them? Things like that. Can you invis on top of them? And if you can, you want to get the Orb of Venom. If you can't, like if you're a Pudge or a Clockwerk or a Night Stalker, then you want to start with Boots. Night Stalker is the only hero that I would go back for an Orb of Venom on, because it's he just does really well with it. I would go Boots, and then I would go back for Orb of Venom on him. It depends. Like, I haven't played him since the tower changes, but what you could have done before was just sit here and nuke the offlaner if the creep wave was closer up, but this tower is closer here, and then you have less wiggle room to get the creeps on your hill, so I don't know if that works or not anymore. But what I would do with Night Stalker a lot of the games was just go mid, throw out 3 voids on the enemy mid, and then I'd clarity up while I'm running to another lane. But I don't know if that's still a thing or not. I'm sure it's still a thing, but it's just like not as good as it used to be. But I don't go Orb of Venom on him because his ability to get on top of people is based off of his slow and his movement speed based off of night. So he doesn't have his I'm gonna get on top of you until nighttime, but he's so strong in the first like few nights that Orb of Venom is worth getting, because Orb of Venom on him is gonna net you some more kills. Whereas like if you get it on a Clockwerk or a Pudge or some shit, you're probably not right clicking people a lot with them. And Night Stalker, you can right click pretty fucking hard until like 20 minutes in the game. And then also your Orb of Venom's slow is doubled on a void target because of how slows stack together. Going from 50 to 62% is the same as a 24% slow from 0 or 100%, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's because Night Stalker. So he 50% slows you. Let's say you have 400 movement speed. You get 50% slowed, you're down to 200. And then if you get hit with a Orb of Venom, it does 12% of what you have left. How do I... It's... well, yeah, it is additive, but it's... Yeah. The more you reduce something, the more impactful it is. Because going from... You can reduce something by 1, and if it starts at 2, then that's 50%. But if you reduce it by 1 and it's 100, you're only reducing it by 1%. Does that make sense? So this cuts your movement speed in half, and then the Orb of Venom is doubled because of it. Or any slows are doubled because of it. I wasn't for a bit, but I am now. Here, let me drop it and then... Are we good now? Okay. Yeah, Discord does that shit all the time. I haven't... Yeah, it's... Half of the time it's just horrible. And this is the first or second time I've had a complaint on Skype. I was about to say I don't like that, but you guys fucked them up, so I guess. Yeah. I mean, if it works, it works. So what's going through your mind when you're deciding what to do during the game? So the thought process that I usually go through in my games is first thinking about who you need to kill. And that's something like if they have a 4 protect 1 lineup, and that obviously you would need to kill the 1, because without the 1, the whole thing falls through. So if they have like a Huskar and a Dazzle and an Oracle and like a Puck and a Tidehunter, obviously the hero that you want to kill is the Huskar. And then when you go through that, you identify what heroes are the highest priority for you to kill, and then from there you want to figure out who you can, or what you can actually do. Because if you're a Tusk and you have an off lane like Zeus or some shit, then and then if you just go to the first step where you figure out, okay, I need to kill the Huskar, let's go fucking kill the Huskar, you're just gonna feed him. But you want to figure out first that you want to kill or you need to kill the Huskar, because then when you're doing something top and then like 2 of the supports rotate and leave the Huskar alone, you still know that he's the highest priority, so you can go fuck with him now that the other supports have moved. So you figure out what you need to do and then what you can actually do, and then there's one more step from it, which is like the harder. It's thinking about what the game is going to look like having done what you did. Which the best example that I have of this was they had a game where it was kind of like, it was Spectre, Tinker, I think like an LC, and then like Ogre Kiro or some shit. But so you would think that you need to kill the Spectre, but you can't because there's a Jakiro and an Ogre, and then you want to kill the Tinker and the whoever, the LC, right? But if you do the final step, you realize the Spectre is going to take a long time to come on anyways, and if I kill the Tinker, if the Tinker gets ahead, then the Spectre is going to have space to catch up eventually. So you have to think through it pretty far in depth, and it's the first, like, I guess 50 games that I went through that. It was pretty fucking hard, but it's one of those where eventually it just kind of like, you do it on your own, like a muscle memory of sorts. But yeah, so that's kind of the thought process that I go through when I'm deciding what I should do this game. So if we look at, where are you? Are we not in a party? I thought we were. No, you're good. You're good. Well, it's not a big deal. It just helps me get to this screen again. So if we look at the draft, what would be? I want you to go through the thought process of what I just gave you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hey, buddy boy. Cheesecake or what for your birthday?
So go through it with the thing that I gave you, what you need to do, what you want to do, and then what does it look like if you did whatever you did. Tinker and then the Wraith King would be a close second of needs to kill. Yeah. And then what would the game look like if you focused on each of the different lanes? Yeah, that would be. It's kind of like you have to think about it, but not strictly. I'm going mid, and that's it. It's kind of like you came to it right at the end, where you decided that you want to jump between Tinker and Elsie, which is the correct thing, and then if the Lion and the Nyx like rotate, then knowing that you need to kill the Wraith King a little bit behind the Tinker would make you know that when they leave, you want to go screw with the Wraith King. But the Wraith King is still, I would say, less important than the Tinker, but it's one of those where if you focus completely on the Tinker, it has diminishing returns. So if you get like 4 kills on the Tinker, going back and killing the Tinker again is not worth more than killing the Wraith King. So with all that in mind, does that help you know what you should be thinking thinking about and doing in the early game? Okay. So the things that I think about, and a lot of the stuff that I'm saying is just going to be like, you have to consider it not as fact, but as a thing to consider. Like the Tinker Wraith King, like we say you need to kill the Tinker and then Wraith King's behind it, but again, if you get 4 kills on the Tinker, then it changes. But so with that in mind, with a Clockwerk, the things that I consider when I go cogs first is, do I have a Shadow Fiend? Is my team communicable enough that we can get the Shadow Fiend souls? Which, of course, the lower you go, the more important actually figuring that out is. And then, can I do anything in the early game if I go Battery Assault? If the answer is no, and then if the answer is no, you're a lot more likely to... If you have a Shadow Fiend, you're more likely to do it, and if you can't do anything otherwise, you're a lot more likely to do it because you can just block the creeps, and then the creeps will end up right here, and you can sap your level 2. And then if you have cogs and Battery Assault, maybe you're in a better position to do something than if you just have Battery Assault. And that's usually worth it for the offlaner, giving up half of the experience to guarantee that he gets any experience at all, and probably some last hits. So if he flames, you just fucking mute him or some shit. But that's a fair trade for offlaner knowing that the creep wave's going to be right here to give up like 200 experience or whatever. And then what was... I think there's one other thing that I was... The Clockwerk with the... Shit, what was it? I don't think it was too important, but does that answer your question? If I remember it, I'll go back to it. And another very important thing is you're not using your quick buy enough. If you use Control Shift, you can fill up 8 components of this. Yeah, it's... Well, have you seen me... You said you watched my videos. Have you seen me talk about it? Okay. Okay. Yeah. I got you. Lol. Nice boots. Well, if you don't do it... Mid's the best for the whole... what was it? You can like miss 10 seconds of buying your salve because you're lasting the whole time. Like just opening the shop and then going to your salve can mean you miss last hits. So sometimes you have to wait like 10 seconds to do it. So and that's another thing. A lot of mid laners use their quick buy, but they don't like throw a salve and a clarity on the end. Like if they're going, if they're a TA and they're going like Aquila and then treads, they'll just leave an empty slot or whatever. Or I don't know how many components that actually takes up. That's there's probably, yeah, Aquila. I was thinking Aquila was only 4, but it's not. But there's better examples. I guess like if somebody's going like treads, fucking I don't know. But you know what I'm saying, with the, let's say a Huskar mid with armlet, boots armlet, and he doesn't put a salve or some shit at the end of it. It's just gonna like, it's never gonna hurt you unless you fuck up, and accidentally buy it when you don't need it, or some shit. You do know that you can use your shards while snowballing, right? Okay. Okay. I don't really like that you went for the windlace. It's kind of like, meh. It's, yeah. It's like the thing with boots is that it's supposed to make you, getting it sooner makes you quicker than other people, and then the windlace kind of like doesn't really do that. Like the boots is enough to make you faster than these guys, and then like windlace like makes you like catch up with other people and stuff. Like you're as fast as the Wraith King, or the wind. It's just like it doesn't do that much more, and it's sidetracking you, and it's less gold efficient than boots, because boots are 1 movement speed for 10 gold, and these are like 12.5 gold per movement speed. And unless you're going Tranquils, which is good on Tusk, it's just sidetracking you. Or you can get your Spirit Vessel with it, but eh. I'd rather get it after the urn. Feels bad. And have you seen my, me talking about wand on position 4s? Okay, so the thing with wand on position 4s is I like it a lot when you're far behind, because you can buy out the components of it, meaning that if you're dying a lot in the early game, you can get wand for like free, and then the wand is one of the most gold efficient items in the game, but the problem with it when you're ahead is your urn and your tranquils are going to solve your health and mana problems. So it's kind of like wand isn't doing too much more, but when you're behind, it's going to help you get to those sooner. And also, in a game where you're behind, it's going to be like 40 minutes before you sell your wand. Whereas a game where you're ahead, you're going to sell it at like 20 or 25. Yeah, you don't get as much from it, and if you're not dying, you don't like get it for free, in a sense. Let me tell this guy. Also, at a 1 sec. Where did you lose your raindrop? Yeah, okay. Feels bad. What a player. See, it was 9 minutes before you used it. I think having your wand would have been really good this game. Your wand probably would have at some point got you a kill that you didn't get, or saved your life somewhere that, yeah, it feels bad. Also, with Earn, you want to get this last. You were dying and buying it out, though, so... but you can buy this at the side shop, so I usually... Yeah, you can. It's the only part of Earn that you can buy from the side shop, so... I usually like to get the Earn. It's kind of like old Battle Fury, where you want to get it the second that you can get it. Also, as a position 4, usually at around 6 to 9 minutes, I look at the timer, and I look at my experience, and I ask myself, am I going to hit level 6 with the tome at 10 minutes? And if the answer is no, I start to play a little bit more leaning towards getting more experience. Yeah. Of course, again, it's one of those, if you're having a lot of fights that are super important, you, if you had wand there, you could have just snowballed. XD. But yeah, I think at this point you're kind of like... This is an example of you struggling because you didn't do well in the early game, which is something that Night Stalker and Clockwerk don't really care about. Yeah. So do you want to go to another replay, or do you want to watch through? Also, if you didn't get that windlace, you would have got your Earn like 2 minutes sooner. And you probably wouldn't have lost your raindrop before it. If you didn't get the windlace, you would have got your Earn, like, yeah. What day was it? Wait. I think on, like, every position 4 you should be getting Earn. Okay. Yeah, it's just so fucking good. If you look at it and then compare it to a Void Stone, same mana regen, 25 more gold, and then you get 2 all stats, 2 armor, and the, yeah. It was really fucking good before, and then they made it so the mana regen scales, and they made it so the health regen scales, and they made it where you can buy it and then get a windlace after, just casually, and you can fucking upgrade it late game. Because I was holding on to that shit at 50 minutes some games because I just wanted to break Blink Dagger with it like a year ago. But now you can fucking get more movement speed, do a ton of damage, heal for a bunch, get more health. Yeah, it's so good. So do you have any questions so far? I don't like that you have the windlace first. Getting your tranquils is so much more important. I don't know if you're like planning on doing that or not. On your quick buy you have windlace, windlace, and then... Yeah. Yeah, you have your windlace in this order. Yeah. Okay. No, it doesn't. Even if it did, it would be bad. Um... Yeah, the only time that I'd gank mid early game is if it's on your hill. And that was even last patch where it's like, now it has to be on your hill, basically, before you even consider going. So what I would be doing is just waiting for the creep wave to meet up with your creep wave and then bodying this guy out with your battery assault. Because if you go on him right now, you're just going to run into his creep wave, which is actually very important to play around. Because if you do this, not only does it screw up your gank, but it's also going to push the lane. So it's really bad. And usually, the most impact that you have is when you first show up in a lane. Like right now, even though you just killed him, and that was the last place you were, if you were to go on him right now, it'd still be like kind of showing up for the first time. Yeah. Should go for their bounty rune, it's good. You shouldn't be getting the ring first, the windlace is better. Unless you're just doing it to have it in order for your quick buy. Yeah. Yeah. It makes sense because then you can just use your quick buy and it'll... I don't mind this. I would probably be focusing a lot more bottom though. Because... not even... yeah, most of it though. And this is... with this it's a lot more important to just stay on top of him than to... well, it's your auto attacks is more what I'm concerned about. Like if yeah, you're using this as kind of like a stun. You're basically rotting this guy down if you were a Pudge, and that's more important than like if you just stay on top of him, he's gonna die. There's no way he escapes you unless you let him get off of you. So your right clicks are meaningless. Or not meaningless, but like opening an opportunity for him. And this is taking an extra 20 seconds because you auto-attacked instead of... Also, I probably at this point I would have rather seen you get a raindrop over the windlace that you're flying out. Yeah, because that gives you 50% more... what's it called? Mana regen, but it also is like a really good version of Stout Shield for the early game. And you want to try and take 4 charges if you can. See, if you had the raindrop here, you wouldn't be too... like, your mana would be a good bit better than it is right now. That smoke was worthless. It's kind of like, so if you're trying to gank bottom, not fucking, I remember that, yeah, misclick, lol, fucking noob. It's basically you could have wrapped around, and if they did have a ward, it would have shown, and if they didn't, it's basically you just wasted 80 gold. Probably just had extra gold. But yeah, like, you're running around and your health is fine, and your movement speed's fine, but your mana's gonna be a problem-ish. And it's one of those things where, like, it's easier to portray with a clarity, where, let's say you're a Pudge and you get 200 mana from a clarity. That 200 mana is going to mean like 3 hooks instead of 1.5, because you're going to be on the map useful long enough for you to regen those other hooks up too. So like right now, if you go take a fight, you probably, yeah, you would have probably had 270 mana right now, and then if you take a fight, you'll have 270, you'll have 120 left instead of like 50. And you'll have enough regen where you have your next set in like 20 seconds instead of like 60. And then if you hold on to that set of spells for 30 seconds before you use it, then the raindrop just makes you stay on the map so much longer. Yeah. Yeah, it's... Yeah, it's, you don't want to go out of... If you have the recipe and all that shit, you don't really want to fuck with just, like... Yeah, I've never fucked with that, but... It's kind of like, you, in a sense, get to buy Urn with, like, 180 less gold, because you use 4/5 of the raindrop. So, that's also another reason where, you want to get the raindrop first. And it's kind of like, if you just don't auto-attack, or you auto-attack correctly instead of what you're doing right now, you won't need the extra windlace. It's more of, you're attacking when you attacking allows him to run away. Yeah. Something like that. It's hard to put it into words, but it's kind of like, let me see if I can find an example of you doing it wrong and go from there. Like this attack, if you attack right now, would be kind of bad, but you're running up, which is good. This is like meh, because he almost ran out of it. You want to be like farther up so that, yeah, him staying in range is much more important, because if he gets out of range, that means you're not going to be doing anything, but if he stays in range, you're going to get like 5 more of these and 3 more right clicks. So it's kind of like just timing it correctly. Like if you attacked right here, it would be wrong. Does that kind of make sense? Okay. It's not so much like backswing or anything like that. It's just like you want to be in front of where they want to go. Kind of. And here you should buy your recipe and a clarity. And you're using your cogs too much. Well, you're using it in spots where, like, they're gonna fight you anyways, or something. Like, the one on the Sand King was good, but, I would hold on to it a lot more. Like, he turns around here, and he's, like, looking to fight you and shit, and you use your cogs. Also, one thing that I really like doing that I don't see enough people doing is buying your stuff even if you don't think it's worth flying it out and just putting it on the courier. Um, and that's just the way that I do that is I have the courier hotkeyed to my mouse, which just makes me select the courier, and then I click move all stash while having the courier selected, and that just puts. Go ahead. Yeah. Well, I honestly don't know what my setup is. All I know is, like, it's so muscle memory at this point that I don't know exactly what I do. But I do know that I select the courier, and then I click the move all stash or whatever. Yeah. This is good. I think you're doing it correctly, but I want to point it out anyways, because this just could be chance. I like setting on one earn charge. Like, I was watching the Winter Wyvern, and I was hoping that you want to earn him, and you didn't, and I don't know if that was chance or not, but, I usually, the only time that I'll use the last earn charge defensively is if it means that we can push with that hero where we couldn't before, or we could Roche with that hero where we couldn't before. So healing your Winter there, he had less than he was missing more than 400 health at the point where you could have done it, but it doesn't accomplish anything by healing him. So yeah, so it's doubly useless. But I like to hold on to this to secure that I get a kill, which gives me 2 earn charges. So I don't know if you're doing that on purpose or not, but you did it correctly. And this was, you should have earned him here, and if you earned him here, you would have been a lot more, and this would be a good time to cogs. Yeah, it's more of like, if you cogs him, he's dead with or without the Spectre, especially with the urn. But the reason that he lives here is the creeps show up, and they're not blocked by the cogs. So if you cogs him right here, had earned him before, he would be dead right now. And I would have dropped my cogs on this teleport to knock back the, yeah, like right there. Feels bad. Oh, your Spectre, you were out of range. What a hero, you sacrificed yourself. Feels bad. And then getting the other raindrop is a waste of gold. The mana doesn't solve much anymore, like the urn's like good enough, and then it's just like meh. Like I'd rather have a stick than a raindrop if I'm going to do something like that after. And then I like the hook that moved you like 300 units. And then you don't ever want to go chainmail. The second item. I mean, it's very rare. Like, you're probably thinking they have a Tinker and a Sand King. It would be pretty good against both of those, but it's kind of like, or you could have a Force Staff and hook in aggressively. Like, the thing with Force Staff is it allows you to go into hooks that you can't otherwise, because if you don't force out in a lot of situations, you just die. So with Chainmail, all you're going to do is hook in and die, but do more damage. Whereas with Force Staff, you can save your team, you can save yourself, you can go more aggressively, You can sit around and flare, you can sit around and battery assault supports if they stray too far out. You can earn people up and shit. And with the armor talent, you're like good enough on armor for that point in the game. Like you having, what is that going to be? 16 armor when you hit level 10 is kind of like overkill-ish. I don't think you can get denied with that. Yeah, it feels bad. Nice. Yeah, a little bit. Do you have any questions so far? Good thing I asked. Made you lose it. Ah, that sucks. You almost... Wasn't there... Part of it's checking his items. You don't really want to fight him with the diffusal blade. You should have used your flare here. Because what your flare would do, when he uses his illusions, because that's going to make your battery assault hit less targets, and you're going to take less damage from his diffusal. So, this is relevant for like most, like a Beastmaster and shit that summons stuff. When you go on them, you want to use you want to use your flare when they have the group, because if you can flare here and like kill this guy next, then you're gonna hit this guy once, and then you're gonna only hit this guy. Whereas if you don't flare, you're gonna like hit both of these guys like 3 times, which means he's not getting hit with it. And then here you're also not using your urn often enough, and using your urn will make it very easy to tell which one it is. Like, you knew it was this one, and you didn't earn him, but now, like, if anything happens, this guy might not know that this is the correct one or some shit like that. And if you, I'm pretty sure if you flared here, you would have killed him. Because if we watch here, he would have taken 160 more damage. Yeah, if you flare here, earn him, one of your battery assault's going to go on this guy. He's going to be around 200 less health by the time that this illusion spawns. So that one's going to take less. And right now, you use it late. He would have probably taken like 300 or 400 more damage at this point, between getting hit by more of your battery assaults and the rocket flare and the urn sooner. And then you would have been able to just man fight him, and you would have taken probably, I think it's like 40 less damage, however much diffusal on, yeah. Yeah, he would have, he was definitely dead if you used your flare early. I mean, you guys get the kill, but you could have got it sooner and not also died. That feels bad. Is there anything to say about that fight? One sec. I think maybe throwing a flare earlier. Just cause like why not? And then I don't like that you hooked this guy. Cause you don't know if he has his stun or not. And if he has his stun, you just wasted. Which he does. Yeah. And then running after him, it was also a mistake because you going down the hill for him right here. Part of it is your camera positioning, like you don't know what's going on, and part of that also is you weren't looking around when you're bottom. So you don't know that there's a PL here, you don't know there's a Witch Doctor here, you don't know the Spectre's about to die. So a lot of the information is just like, you don't know, and then by the time you do know, you're in a spot where you're dead. So I think most of that was just not looking at the fight before going to the fight. Well, it's not that bad, because your Spectre's, Spectre uses gold better than PL does. Like, if you compare an... Yeah. I would have cog storied there. I would have also earned him, because it's like, why not? He's basically guaranteed dead. So, the earn just guarantees it. Like, if you earned him here, you would have killed him. Like, in the way that you did it. And that's the whole point of saving the one earn, is to just throw it on people that are dead anyways, but, like, 99%, yeah. Like, this guy's like 99% dead anyways, without using hindsight, if you earn him. So if you earned him there and hit him with the flare, and then the orchid pops, he's dead. How much health does he have? Yeah, he has less than 50 health. So if you earned him there, again, he would have died. But a lot of the mistakes you're making are like general mistakes more so than Clockwerk mistakes, so, like the getting the urn on heroes and stuff like that, which is good because that means that this lesson's gonna help not only your Clockwerk play but everything. And now you have your blade mail. Let's see if it does anything. Well, it's just like, blade mail scales, whereas Force Staff's like always the same, kind of. So it's fine to get a late blade mail, but it's like, how do I put it? Force Staff is always as good as it always is, whereas blade mail is better the later it is, aside from it being a 2,000 gold item. And like you don't want to get it at like 70 minutes kind of. Yeah. But yeah, so do you have any final questions? We're at about an hour now. What position? Like a babysitter? Or It depends. Like I just kind of like Disruptor better, kind of, because X and Glimpse are in the same realm, but this guy also has Kinetic Field and Static Storm, and in the early game he's not completely useless because he has Thunderstrike. Whereas Kunkka, like, what does Kunkka do in the first 5 minutes of the game? Yeah, if you don't set up a kill, you don't do anything. This isn't a harass hero, he's just a kill hero, and not even that great of one. You kind of have to hit a torrent and then follow up with an X. And you don't have the damage, you need, like, your carry and another support for you to do your job. But later game, he's pretty good. I don't think he's great. Because all of his shit's telegraphed. Like, what if they just BKB? This takes forever, this takes forever, this takes forever. Yeah, I mean, he's not bad, and he's, like, fun, but, like, he's like the Spectre of supporting, which is not something that you want to... Yeah, does that answer your question? Okay. Anything else? Great. So yeah, try to focus on thinking about going through that checklist as a position 4 in the beginning of the game, using your quick buy, using your earn, and using it the way that I told you to, where you save 1 earn to, yeah, and then the only time that you use that 1 is if it allows you to push. Like, if your Spectre has, like, 400 health, and he only needs, like, 600 to be able to push, because there's, like, a Tinker and you want to survive the burst or something, then that earn is really good to use on him. But aside from that, you kind of want to hold it. And then Clockwerk, you want to go Tranquils, earn. Those two can be, you can switch the order of the two, depending on how the game's going. If you're snowballing super hard, you want to get the earn first. Just Brown Boots earn. And then I would stay away from, yeah, usually it's depending on how the game goes, and I guess for me, a lot of my games go well in the early game just because experience and shit. But I'll usually go like Brown Boots, earn, getting the raindrop early, and then go Tranquils, Windlace, and then Force Staff. Because that, it's a lot of gold before that does much, the Force Staff. So getting that Windlace after your Tranquils that you might make into a Spirit Vessel eventually is pretty value, because you're 2,250 gold away from your next item that's useful. And then with this, you want to get the Ring of Health first. I think it's a fucking meme. I haven't used it, and I think it's kind of goony as shit. It's mostly because you're gonna have a hard time getting all of that gold, and you want to, you definitely want to get Blink on this guy. So you shouldn't, like, and then and then the other part of it is you're going to be hard-pressed to find a game where you're not better off spending that 4,000 gold on something else. Like, getting a Force Staff can oftentimes be a lot better than your Ags. Or if you look at your Ags, it's kind of like you're pretty close to a fucking sheep stick anyways. So it's, the Ags is just kind of like, can you hear me? think he disconnected. Yo, you good? Alright. So yeah, what I was saying was you're gonna be very often you'd rather use that gold on something else, like upgrading your spirit vessel, getting a force staff, a Vlad's, maybe like a lotus orb, is less gold than an Ags, and it's, yeah, so it's just kind of like, it's decent if nothing else is good, but yeah, like if you have a Bloodseeker, it might be funny, or Coddle or some shit, but I wouldn't like rush it or think it's really good, but again, I don't know for sure, so like if you see it a lot in pro games, then yeah, but at this point, like, it's one of those things where it could be something that people think's shit, and then like pros figure out it's amazing, and then everyone's like, oh, it's amazing. So I'm not sure yet, but as for now, I don't see it being very value, and I'd rather, if I had you in one of my games, I'd rather see you with like a force staff and like working towards a lotus orb or some shit. But yeah, so if you don't have any other questions, I'm gonna cut the recording here and put it up. Alright.